Can the iPad Pro be your only computer? Can it replace your laptop? What do we mean by that? Stick around to understand the difference and help you make your decision. Hi, I'm Murali. Before we get deep into the topic, can I request you to subscribe if you haven't yet and hit the bell icon? You can just click on the watermark on the right hand side bottom. Your small gesture will go a long way to support small creators like myself. Every time Apple puts out a new iPad, they put up a case saying that the tablet is ready to take on the computer. And every year there's a strong community debate. And the outcome actually depends on what people end up using the computer for. Last year, with the iPad Pro, Apple released a really powerful iPad. But people pushed back because the iPad had iOS running and with no way to do desktop-style browsing, a file manager, or the ability to port or transfer files. So Apple responded by releasing the iPad with its own version of iOS called the iPad OS. It also gave users all the three of their asks. In addition, they threw in mouse support and sidecar to add the iPad as a second screen. So what does the iPad OS do new that we couldn't do earlier? That brings it closer to a desktop feel. The Microsoft Office stack is available that pretty much does everything that you need to do on a desktop. Mail and Safari are now desktop class. In fact, I've stopped using the Mac for anything mail. The app icons are now smaller to fit more onto one page. And there's a convenient widget view on the side of the iPad. Split view and slide have now got a big upgrade. Slide over allows you to keep multiple apps and switch between them while you're working. There are many apps that support side-by-side view, like GoodNotes. These two functions allow the iPad to become a great multitasker. The entire thing though is that it takes some time to get used to and to be able to work with it seamlessly. Now you can connect an external storage to it as a direct connection. With really ultra small portable SSDs, its exclusion last year was a major disappointment for people who were looking for an upgrade. But Apple has done good by including that this year in the iPad OS. Last year, I used to use a workaround by connecting the SSD to another portable device called the RAV Power File Hub. But that has since changed, since iPad OS now supports it natively. By just plugging in the external device and browsing with it using split view, you can easily transfer files from the iPad to the SSD and vice versa. No eject required as is required in Mac or Windows. The other feature that's there in the iPad OS is that it's instantly on and off. By adding in the desktop version of the websites, they remove the real urge to go back to a desktop if the mobile experience isn't good enough. That by itself has removed a number of frustrations that I've had personally. Add to this functionality the ability to use the Apple Pencil and gestures that can't be done on a Mac or on Windows. This makes the entire navigation and workflow much easier. The Apple Pencil also got a bump up. With a much lower latency and fantastic handwriting experience, it makes the whole proposition excellent. The ability to create a screenshot, annotate, open a Word or a PDF document, sign for a document, makes all of this very powerful. With the Pencil Kit, developers can integrate the Apple Pencil natively into their apps. A lot of people talk about what the desktop does and what the iPad doesn't. But we ignore what the iPad can do and what our Macs or Windows can't. Macs don't really have touch access. They're not instant boot. When your meeting finishes, you just close the iPad like a book and carry on. On a Mac, you have the tendency to put it on sleep or in shutdown. Additionally, when you hold meetings with 10 Macs open in a conference room, you'll instantly feel that you're creating a set of artificial walls with significant distraction possibilities. On an iPad, it is laid out, yielding much shorter meetings with a higher productivity. Just think about the experience of holding up a book on your Mac. Isn't that quite painful? Listening to music or watching a movie is far more comfortable in an aircraft when you have your iPad. If you don't believe me, just watch yourself juggling the laptop when the food is getting delivered. You'll know what I'm saying. Furthermore, even Apple recognizes that the iOS store is far more powerful than their Mac App Store. So, Mac OS Catalina now adds Mac Catalyst to making it much easier for third-party developers to port their iPad apps onto the Mac. For creative people, there's Lightroom, Photoshop that's available for photo editing. If you can draw, you can use apps like Procreate. If you want to take notes, you can do that by doing digital note-taking with apps like GoodNotes. For video editing, you can use LumaFusion. So all of this makes the device go closer to the MacBook and do much more. I really put the iPad Pro to the test as I wrote an entire draft of my first book. I used Microsoft Word. By the way, I just used 11-inch 2018 iPad Pro, not even the 12.5-inch. In terms of functionality, a lot of people have started commenting on the limitations of the iPad in terms of the mouse functionality and the lack of a trackpad. The way I look at it is that these aids were done when there was no touch functionality on a laptop. Given that we are now moving up the value chain, these redundancies can be removed, except for special circumstances. In summary, I think the industry is moving towards cloud storage, voice recognition, and speed of execution. But we are trying to keep ourselves away from the change by requesting for more features like a Bluetooth mouse support, additional USB ports. By the way, there are options available for you to connect additional USB drives. For a majority of users, the Mac or the laptop is a mail machine, a presentation creating machine, the ability to copy and share files, write a Word document, calendar, notes, a to-do system, a web browsing engine, something that takes care of your ticketing and printing requirements, the ability to do WebEx, a bigger screen. All of this can be transitioned seamlessly to the iPad. In addition, the iPad throws in music, video, handwritten notes, social media, and a Kindle-style book reading that's powerful. I think it's important to recognize that Apple is not trying to change the functionality of the iPad to that of a Mac, but creating the iPad to be much more useful in our day-to-day life for our computing requirements. Apple is not trying to unify. They're creating two different operating systems. Just look at it. iOS run different versions for Apple TV, iPadOS for iPad, iOS for mobile, and macOS for MacBooks. They have clearly defined strategies to keep all these devices apart. But Apple has also been putting out confusing messages. These messages are making the debate even stronger. So your choice on whether you need a Mac or the iPad could do all of your requirements will depend on what you want to do. All that I can say is that for day-to-day requirements, the iPad Pro is more than sufficient for your requirements. For some creators, we rely on the Mac for more advanced compute requirements. But with time, I think this transition may happen quite easily. My day-to-day requirements are met very easily with the iPad Pro, and it has replaced my Mac as I travel light. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to support small creators like myself. I wonder, could this be your next computer? I'll see you guys again in another video next week. Bye for now.